Alright, everyone, welcome back to the Study Prep Guys channel. It has been not too long, but long is still long. So it's nice to be back with everyone. Just to note something, we will be working the May June 2021 principle of business in this live stream. I have prepared the documents here. So I did work this paper a number of years ago. So in relation to that, we could actually start. So this is the Caribbean Examination Council. This is CSEC May June 2021 in relation to the subject principle of business. As relates back to principle of business, even as a subject, I have not made a lot of videos on this area. But just for today, we'll be changing up things a lot. As it really gets back to every subject area, I do hope to keep up to date with you guys as it relates to those areas and work past papers. Hopefully, we will try our best to work every year before CSEC, May, June 2021, so you guys could be up to date and everything could be all right with you. So, just to know, the paper two for principle of business is 2 hours. So, whenever you're going to do your exam, do it with respect to time, right? Do your exam with respect to time. So with that said, let's actually start this paper now. List four instruments of exchange, or at least some instruments of exchange that we do have. Well, a good example of that would be telebanking, the credit card, and then we have the electronic funds transform. Another example would be like electronic commerce or e-commerce in short. So we already have at least around four instruments of exchange right there. E-commerce, we have telebanking, credit card, and electronic transfer. So before we could even start, we already have a lot of options right there. You only ask for four, so we'll not go over that limit by any means. So where are we now? We're question one. So let's look at question two. Outline two ways in which money facilitates trade in modern economy. So there's a lot of options for this one, especially. Guys, just give me a minute. Let me just put on the light. I don't like how it's a bit dark. All right, that would be better. All right, let's go on to the second question. So, outline two ways in which money facilitates trade in the modern economy. First of all, it actually works as a medium of exchange, meaning that it facilitates trade. Without money, the trade process would not even be in place. So, first of all, it facilitates trade. Without money, there would not be any trade in general. So, that's what you could note right off the bat. Without money, there would not be trade. Secondly, it acts as a store of value, right? That is basically one of the core functionalities of money. It acts so it acts as a store of value. And thirdly, the facilitator of the price mechanism. How many points did it ask? Let me just make sure. So first of all, it says outline two ways in which money facilitates trade in the modern economy. First of all, medium of exchange, meaning that it facilitates trade. Not only does it facilitate trade, it is actually the facilitator of the price mechanism. This could be a bag of potatoes costing $100 a cost, in comparison to a car which costs probably around $1.5 million. So the final point that, or we have two final points, or 2 points in general remaining. Another functionality of the money in modern society is a medium of deferred payment. So, medium of deferred payment, we have um, facilitator of the price mechanism, we have acts as store of value, and finally, it acts as a unit of account. So, with that said, that is probably all the points that I could think of right off the bat. Medium of exchange, it acts as a store of value. Thirdly, it is a facilitator of the price mechanism. Fourthly, medium of deferred payments and unit of account. These are all functionalities with regard to money in today's society. So let's go on to the next question. So it says here, state two characteristics of each of the following types of business. They did said sole proprietor, and if you guys have been watching my video for a long time, we know that a sole proprietor business is also known as a sole trader business. And the sole trader business is usually operated, meaning that it has one head over it. In more complex organizational structures like a partnership or a company, it is more complex. The sole proprietor, sole traders is the most simplest form of business. You could literally make this at your probably this is usually for persons like who just want to set up their own business, and they don't want to get into that complex organizational structure, or they don't have the amount of monetary finance to actually even get up a business of that scale. So characteristics of a sole trader. This the first thing that comes to mind is single ownership. So that is the first thing that comes into mind. Another point that comes into mind. So it may be unable to attract, qualify personnel or personnel, right? So it may be unable to not qualify, attract qualified qualified persons. So first of all, whenever you think of the sole trader or sole proprietor business, the first major thing that comes into mind is single ownership. Second to that, it may be unable to attract qualified personnel, right? So those are two things that comes into mind. Decisions can be made very quickly. That is something else that you would take into consideration. Um, the decision making process is quick. And then the final thing that I did said in my four statements, it is the simplest form of a business. These usually within most businesses or most of the modern day businesses in today's society started from a sole proprietor business, meaning that it started small. We usually refer to sole proprietor businesses in general as small businesses. We don't refer to them as big businesses. We don't refer to them as conglomerates. We don't refer to them as companies or cooperatives or anything else or partnership or what's not. We usually refer to sole proprietor business or singly owned business, whereas there's only one person operating the business or financing the business. We usually refer to sole proprietor or single ownership or sole traders as small businesses. Most of the time, these sole trader businesses turn into very big businesses eventually going on into the future. So where are we now? So yes. So our second type of business right of the BOT is the public limited companies, right? So the first point that usually is denoted when it comes to the public limited companies is that the public limited company must be incorporated, meaning that it must have some form of supervisional authority. Because as a term, this comes into play with public and private sectors. Usually, a lot of students don't know what is public, or they don't know to differentiate between the public and private sectors. The public sectors are government owned, meaning that it is financed and it is incorporated by the government. An example of public limited companies is school or educational institutions. We usually refer to them as public schools. Those public schools are incorporated into the governmental systems and the governmental incentives. So that's something to note. Secondly, it may be unable to attract highly qualified people. We're not saying that it does not attract qualified persons, but usually, most of the times, public limited companies do not aim to attract highly qualified personnel. They usually just aim to qualify persons, or usually train them, or usually just supply jobs for the general populace. So that's what I want to denote. So secondly, it may be unable to qualify to attract, sorry for that, highly qualified people. So it may be unable to to attract highly qualified personnel. So the third thing is that there must be at least 7 shareholders. So that is 3 points that we do have. I don't think I even need to state anything more than that. I don't state it 3 points right off the bat. And then we have a very other interesting form of business, which is a cooperative. And something that a lot of students don't know is that cooperatives are not profit driven, right? Cooperatives do not go into the business environment and say that we have to make a profit. That is not their overall objective, right? So they are voluntary, meaning that they are non-profit making organizations. So let me just put that right here. They are voluntary, non-profit making organizations. So yes, they are voluntary, meaning that they are non-profit making organizations. So secondly, the members usually have a common bond. So the members, they usually have a common bond. And then finally, I just put in additional stock or additional point. So So cooperative distribute profits among members. So yes, that is 3 points. First of all, is that they are voluntary. Secondly, the members usually have a common bond. Usually, cooperatives are formed out of an interest in a certain activity. It could vary. And then thirdly, we have the cooperatives distribute profit among members. There's something else to denote. So yes, we have 3 points there. So we could work with that right now. And you guys might probably say, why am I not elaborating? I'm just giving you the points and I'm explaining it. And this is a live. So usually, what persons or other YouTubers that I know, they would just finish the paper beforehand and then release the video. I'm not like that. I work the paper alongside you, and you guys could probably elaborate more on that on your own time. Right? So I'm gonna give you explanations as relates to the points, so you guys could have a gist of it and you guys could elaborate on your own, right? Because learning is not only about remembering, learning is about understanding. So yes, we are in now. We're at D. Our last question for now. I will take a short break after we answer the question D. List three ways in which a free economy operate when compared to businesses in a planned economy. So first of all, let's start off with the first major point, efficiency. And I will elaborate on this in the later video. Do have some notes as it really gets to this here. I'll just read it here. So in a free market economy, businesses operate with minimal government intervention and rely on market forces determining prices, production, and distribution. So, first of all, let's look at the efficiency aspect of it. So, in a free market economy, businesses are motivated to operate efficiency in order to maximize profits and stay competitive. And in this case, in a planned economy, there are usually no competition. So what's the point in general? So this leads, majority of the time, leads to greater productivity and lower costs. Because when you're operating in a market economy, you look to reduce spending and you usually aim to optimize efficiency. This is the standard quota that is usually improvised and usually incentivized in market economy. We spend less and we increase our efficiency. However, since there is no determining market forces in a planned economy, meaning that there is no competition in a planned economy, what's the point? The products in a planned economy are usually not of high quality because there is no competition. Secondly, we have something called risk tasking. In a free market economy, businesses are able to take risk and pursue new opportunities in order to potentially earn higher profits. This is not the case in the case at least of the planned economy. And then fourth or thirdly, we have something called entrepreneurial freedom. In a free market economy, entrepreneurs have the freedom to start, operate, and expand based on market opportunities and consumer demand. However, these concepts such as consumer demands, these concepts such as entrepreneurial freedom are not prevalent in a planned economy. Since you can't even start or you can't even be an entrepreneur in general in a planned economy. So with that said, I will elaborate more to these points in coming up. I will take a short break, so I will be back with you guys in the next 5 minutes. So with that said, All right, welcome back again. I take a little thing, probably longer than the 10 minutes. Anyways, let's elaborate on this and let's call it a day. Anyways, we'll stay right here. We will start back this same paper in the next video. Anyways, guys, stay tuned. So for us, our first point, I did elaborate on the rest, but we will probably have to separate video for that. Anyways, guys, see you out on the next video. Until then.